we disagree. But anyway, that's history. That's history.
Darryl, I was removed as a POA on the 15th of October 2010. I got a letter from Luca instructing me to hand these things over. I think it was early or mid-November.
Mm-hmm. And he got nothing. He got nothing, did he?
Well, he got nothing, but all I had to hand to her basically was a few cards, Medicare cards.
But she didn't get those, did she?
She didn't get those, but Ken Barnes suggested to me at the time, no, don't do anything for the money.
If you've got them, honestly, and I find this difficult to
excuse me, and there was no outstanding bills to be paid. Because
but as a power of attorney, previous power of attorney, quite honestly, to avoid conflict, wouldn't you just hand them over? But anyway, look, let's not go there. You talk about mediation. Let me just say, Joanne, there's no doubt about it, she's intimidated by you.
Well, I'm sorry, but... excuse me,
Excuse
have you got a copy, or has she got a copy of that audio recording of my meeting with her on the 25th of June 2010?
Let me just also say,
yes,
anybody who records anybody should be fine. It's an offence. I don't know why you think you can do that.
Well, look, that is a separate issue.
I know, but it's not a right thing to do to record conversations.
But if he
Diana, excuse me, please, love. Let me address this one. I did it for my own personal record between you and me, so that I didn't have to make notes as we were going. I had no intention ever of using it, but when Joanne quotes falsely from it, what am I to do?
Well, unfortunately, just broke the law. You broke the law.
But she has...
It's a separate issue.
I know, but you're
a separate issue
who has this...
I authorised it, if you wish to look at that.
Yeah, you're a person who wants to pick. Anyway, let's just move on. Yeah. Anyway, Joanne is intimidated by you. Would I have met with you in a mediation? I don't know. But eventually, we got to a mediation, so that was probably a good thing to get there.
This is concerning the retraction of the defamation things, yes.
Well, again, we have a different view on that, but I'm not going to go there.
Right. Okay.
The other thing is, you talk about your mother's legal expenses. I mean, the way...
Sorry, I talk about them.
Yeah, unnecessary legal costs, including defending matters. You put in your application.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, you've got a copy of that now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me just say, you wouldn't have got a cheaper solicitor acting for John, Joe and your mother, because, it was almost nil, because I just was doing it almost as a favour. So, the other thing is, in the will, the current will, and I think I've spoken to Mark Davidson about it, your share of the estate is paying for all these costs. So, Lucas fees and all that, that's clearly what the will says, that they're coming out of your share of the estate. So, from an economic and a practical point of view, there is no point. I mean, I can't see since why you want to continue this application, especially if your mother's going to take you out as a will.
Darryl, excuse me, may I just interrupt there a moment? I have never raised the issue of mother's will.
I'm raising it.
I know. It is they who have raised it several times.
It's your mother who's spoken to me. I didn't even do the will, by the way. I wasn't part of the will.
No, before you became involved, they had raised it before that.
Yeah.
The will really...
That's what started a lot of it.
No, it wasn't. Not in my opinion.
But Luca, your mother instructed, what started a lot of it about the will was your mother talking to Luca saying that she wanted a new will. That's how that came about. But again,
sorry, my mother talking to Luca to say she wanted a new will.
That's right.
That was to remove me as a co-executor. You mean, or to?
I wasn't party. I wasn't party. But that's right. You are not an executor of the will.
Yes.
But you are a beneficiary. You are an equal beneficiary. Your mother. But 2 weeks' time, you may not be an equal beneficiary.
Darryl, what do you suggest we do? Because
you know what I do?
No, just please.
Yeah.
Because
you asked
but I'll finish the question. Because the issue to me is not really mother's estate. It has not been an issue. The issue to me is the dreadful destruction of a family relationship, because there is very clear evidence, and I know you're on Joanne's side, obviously.
I'm on your mother's side,
well,
actually.
Well, Joanne's and mother's.
No, your mother.
Okay, well, you're on their side, not mine. You're paid by them, not me. Okay, but you're on their side, so the issue for me really is the dreadful destruction of what was previously a loving family relationship by what there is clear evidence, and I will go through it with you carefully if you really want to sit down and look at it, where Joanne has repeatedly poisoned Mother against me. Now, I don't know whether it's because Joanne is very upset because Mother has now gone from one stage in her life to the next stage, and she is naturally fearful of losing her soon, because that's just the natural progression. And there has been evidence from what John has said to me some years ago that Joanne is having trouble coping with it emotionally. But what Joanne did to me was absolutely atrocious. It devastated me. I couldn't sleep for 3 days. And for Joanne to maintain that she had nothing to do with Mother changing her POA and executors on a will is unfortunately nonsense. The fingerprints are all over it.
Okay.
Because Joanne has been in what is called a fiduciary position, I think is the word, or fiducious position, and Mother has even admitted it, that she looks to Joanne. And if you read through the transcript from the last GT hearing, it was clear that Mother looks to Joanne.
Of course she does.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if Joanne says jump, if Mother could, she'd say how high.
But let me ask you then, how is this application, I can't understand how this application addresses those issues.
It probably doesn't now that you explain it to me this way.
It's almost...
But Joanne will not talk to me.
I know she won't.
Can you encourage her to do that?
I can talk to her. I went there. I was amazed when I spoke to your mother that she didn't want to see you again. I mean,
a year and a half ago, my uncle Eric spoke at length with John, and
trying again to get the family to resolve.
Some sort of...
Did you read those emails? I mean, I wasn't too sure whether Uncle Eric was all there, to tell the truth.
Well, look, I know he was getting angry towards the end, and I was disappointed to see some of them too.
Yeah.
But in the early stages, and what he'd said to me on the phone, it indicated he was doing his best to try and solve this dreadful situation in the Thew family, and John was apparently quite prepared to talk with me, as you know, in the same condition as you and I are, sitting across a table. We're not punching each other. We're not, doing anything wild or silly. We're talking in a mature fashion, but Joanne put the squash on that. Joanne was the last one. She would not retract, according to what Mark told me. John and Mother would, but Joanne held out. She would not retract those defamatory statements. That's what Mark told me that you had said.
True at all.
It's not, okay. Well, Mark told me 2 of them would, and he understood the other one was Joanne who wouldn't.
No, John and Joe were always as one,
Right.
and your mother went basically along with them, whatever.
Okay.
Although,
Anyway, doesn't matter. But this is the difficulty now.
Let me just say this. To me, it wouldn't matter to me if I was the executor of a will or not. Obviously, it means something to you, and I think that you can probably say that that's not going to happen. I don't think your mother will change.
I don't want to.
I know, but you mentioned that. You just mentioned that she took you out of the will.
It is the terrible hurt, and there is the emotional side to it, not the legal side. There is the terrible hurt, the devastation that I had cared for my mother so faithfully.
This application's not going to correct that. It's, you know what? It's inflaming that. It's inflaming.
If you can reassure me, and if you can see, that's why I mentioned in there. What about a third party? If you can see these figures and reassure me that there's not a problem. You see,
do you really believe? Let me just ask you this, in a real honest answer. Do you really believe that John and Joe are taking Edna's money or embezzling it or not acting in her best interest. Can you please...
Yeah, I can give you an example. Yeah. Would you like
me
to?
just now. So what
I have to say, my mother-in-law, for the bulk of Joe and John's married life, had a huge contemptuous attitude towards John.
I know.
I know.
That was very vocal.
And how did you know that?
Because somebody, John had mentioned it, or John,
very contemptuous. And I can remember even just a few months before she went into the nursing home, when Leighton was saying something to his mum, I really think we should tell Joe and John this. Her response was, this is referring to John, none of his bloody business.
End quote.
End quote. And I was in the back seat of the car, I heard very clearly. And that was the attitude that my mother-in-law had to John Hunter. None of his bloody business. She entrusted Leighton entirely to look after all her financial things. So hence you can understand why all of this is just hugely destructive on Leighton, because it has just destroyed the relationship he had with his mother, what he thought was a strong, loving
mother-son bond.
Mother-son bond. And that's why it is just so hard for him now. And he didn't sleep last night.
This application is not going to fix any of that, is it? It's just going to make it worse. You know, when we went to that mediation conference, I spoke to the mediator, and you know what his comments to me were before it even started when we had a talk? Why in the bloody hell is anybody suing his mother for defamation? He said, I can't believe it. So, I mean, and I couldn't
Daryl, that is okay, but before we got to that stage, the Christmas before, I don't know if you had seen the letters that were written to Luca about it.
I did, I've got it all.
Yes, and it included a draft retraction, something which I drafted, which was a very non-blaming thing, because I said in there words like, when people change their circumstances, or when family circumstances change and there are frayed tempers, there can be misunderstandings. And we now realise that there have been misunderstandings. We now retract completely and unconditionally all the allegations made against him. In other words, I'm not blaming them. I'm saying there were reasons for it. It was because of misunderstandings and tensions within a family that has now changed, significantly changed circumstances. But what did they come back with? They came back and accused me of defaming them. Okay, tell me where I've defamed you, and I'll either substantiate or retract. What did I get for an answer? Nothing. Do you see what I mean? Joanne just shoots her mouth off and shoots a pen off.
But except for not seeing your mother for the last 6 months, which is an issue, I know, there really hasn't been any issues between you and John and Joe, have there? I mean, it's all been sweet and quiet, and nobody's annoyed each other because you haven't seen each other.
But Daryl, the issue was those three things that I put there.
Yeah.
If this is it here, yeah, that it was offered. Joanne assured the tribunal we would be happy to give it. Now, happy implies I'd be delighted to give it. I have nothing to hide.
But they say to me that you never ever took that up, that you never ever requested it.
That's what
they say to me.
I know, but the whole tribunal was about transparency and accountability.
Yeah, well, they certainly. Well, but again, won't you accept that at the end of that the first tribunal, they found that your mother didn't need any financial management from it.
Yes.
Nothing, as far as I can see, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed, and I'm pretty confident the tribunal will make the same decision this time again.
Yeah,
except there'll be a lot more time and money and angst by everybody yet again. So if there's any chance of actually reconciling with your mother.
But how can we do that if she doesn't want to talk and won't explain to it? Because
don't ask her to explain.
But he's been there. What and said to his mum, what have I said What have I done to upset you?
In the last 6 months?
Well, no, because we've been told not to go.
But nobody's told you in the last 6 months not to go. You mean Edna doesn't want to see you again. Sorry, yes.
So,
sorry.
When we were able to see her...
Edna will contact me if she wishes to see me.
When we were... He has said, well, what have I said? What have I done? And her response is, don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Don't want to talk about it. So how can you sort things out if you get the response, don't want to talk about it?
You bury it, you put it behind you, and you forget about it, and you move on. And if moving on means you try and make contact with your mother again, I reckon...
How can we do that when
we're
told we're not to?
I can talk to Joanne. I have been, let me just give you an example. I have been trying to get John and Joe to get hearing aids for your mother. Because she can't hear. I have to sit there and talk quite loudly to her. The response has been, over the last, since this matter started again, probably 1 month or two ago, the response has been, she had some deafness because of some medical condition and shock and stress and all that, and then you've been the doctor and it's not going to help and blah, blah, blah.
Sinusitis or something?
I'm not too sure. But I said, well, why don't you take your mother to an audiologist and get it? Oh, yes, but Mum doesn't want them. I went out there on Tuesday night and I was talking to her. I talked to her on the phone. She can talk on the phone, as you know. But I went there on Tuesday and I said, look, it is so difficult to talk to you. Why don't you get hearing aids? And she said, that might be a good idea. And so when John and Joe came, I'm just trying to say, when John and Joe came in, they said, it's great. Why don't I'm glad you can convince us. So what I'm trying to say here is that what it needs is somebody, probably not when John and Joe around, to actually say to your mother, I mean, that day when I went down, John was there and Joe was there. And your mother is pretty defensive of Joe.
Always has been.
I know. And
always
put two in.
But that always has been to Lake's disadvantage.
Put two
Edna. Might be getting somewhere.
Put two Edna. Look, Edna, I spoke to Lake and yourself. Why don't you see him? But, there's a couple of conditions. History is history. Nobody's going to win anything. You don't need an apology from your mother. She doesn't need an apology. I know, but so don't go there. Don't say, but Mum, we've got to talk about the future, talk about great things, talk about what you do that day. Because, I think if it's my parents, when they're gone, and you regret it. And I just think it's positive. I don't think this is positive at all. I'm absolutely convinced at the end of the day we will win. We will win again. I'm absolutely convinced it's going to cost a lot of money because this time I am charging. Last time I didn't. And that was a lot of work. I don't know. How much was your bill in here? Did you? Thousands.
It's many thousands.
Yeah, well.
Many thousands.
Yeah, I know. And I can understand that. I mean, it was just...
And I've got to shake my head and say, if I've spent that amount on solicitors, Joanne has probably done the same. Why hasn't she ever decided to attend a mediation session early in the piece? No, but I'm not going back through history in that sense. I'm saying, why hasn't she ever decided to attend a mediation session? Because she was invited to so many times.
She's dominated by you, mate. She's dominated by you. Dominated by you.
Why did she come to me and meet on the 25th of June, the thing that I illegally recorded, so you claim? And
well, you know it is. You know it's been recorded. I'm not. You can't record people. But anyway,
it's a separate issue, though. But
I know. But you say what I claim. I'm telling you that's the law.
Yeah. Okay.
You can look it up.
But separate issue. But she came there very aloof, I think would be the word, standoffish. We were just about hugs and kisses by the time she left.
It's all in, I'm sorry.
And look at the transcript. I was accused of editing things out of it. I can demonstrate that, or a forensic audiologist could demonstrate that nothing has been edited out of it. Right? Because there's various traces through there.
Did you tell Mark, the doctor, you were recording him?
Sorry?
Did you tell Mark, was it his name Mark, the doctor? Mark Fitzpatrick? What's his name?
Fitzmaurice.
Fitzmaurice.
Diana was sitting there listening to the conversation, writing down flat out.
So you didn't record him?
No.
Oh, okay. You got the impression I think that you might have. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's all handwritten down. That's not an issue.
But look, I'm just giving you some way forward. If this goes ahead, I'll make a lot more money.
Yeah,
Great.
That's right.
You know, if this goes ahead, we'll win. Great.
Well, look, you might not, but,
Well.
but I don't want it.
Yeah.
Please don't think
They don't want it either, and your mother doesn't. I don't care what John and Joe want. Your mother does not want it.
If you can find some other way to negotiate a peace settlement, because those accusations that were levelled at me. No, I'm saying those were levelled at me, and those, unfortunately, were the genesis. Those and others were the genesis of so much of the misunderstandings that went on. And if you just go back to the simple things like those 3 cheques of $2,000 each, I was accused of theft. Now, there could have been an alternative. I could have made those 3 cheques out to the pharmaceutical company.
Mm-hmm.
What would Joanne have said to me then?
Well,
nothing.
But again, aren't we hashing?
No, but the thing is, I didn't benefit 1 cent out of all those transactions.
No, but you've got to remember, Joanne and John essentially paid for it all, didn't they? That's really
but
what
that's
happened.
a separate issue.
I know, but you didn't benefit. But from what I understand, if you're going there, Joanne and John did not realise you would be taking that money to pay for that.
Yes.
Well,
Joanne offered that money to Mother.
Yes, I agree.
And my mother told me about it at the second eye treatment.
Yes.
Because Mother had money in fixed deposit at the time, 50 grand, and she said to Joe, and I didn't hear it, but she told me, she said to Joe something along the lines, oh look, I don't particularly want to break that. So the next bit I heard from Mum, the next eye treatment was, oh look, I've spoken to Joe, she's working on John, were her words, or very close to that, to try and persuade him to hand some money over to Mum, and she's going to give it to me.
But
so I said,
how do you know that's what Joe and John agreed to? How do you know from what
I
your mother
don't,
said?
but that's what Mother said. And then later on, when I saw Joanne outside Mother's place, because I can still remember it on the front steps, Joe asked me, well, how do you want these cheques to pay for Mum, and who do I to pay for Mum's eye treatment, and who do I make them out to? And I thought, well, look, it's probably best you put it in Mum's account, because, you know, it's simplest. It goes in there, and she organised to get 10 grand from John, and it was to pay for the eye treatment. Now, Joanne offered, Joanne insisted, Joanne got the money out of John, and I am now blamed because...
But you just said that your mother was trying to get some money out of John to pay for it. Now you're saying...
No, I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
I didn't. I said...
You just said that your mother was working, talking...
No, I said Joanne's mother told me that Joanne was working on John.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's sort of an expression that Mother will use on occasions. Oh, she's working on John to come down and fix the fence, or come down and do this or do that. On this occasion, it was she's working on him to try and get a bit of money out, or encourage him to give me a bit.
Okay.
All right?
Let's move forward.
Can I clarify that I did not make a cent out of that transaction?
No, look,
and there have been other occasions...
They're not saying you did.
No.
I don't think that... No. But no, Leighton, I don't want to talk about the history anymore.
Joanne volunteered the money.
Yeah, but... No, they paid. I don't want to talk about history. It's not going to get us anywhere. We've been there. We've done that.
But that is the thing that was so upsetting to me.
You know, I can see that this is never going to get resolved.
Okay.
And I think you're not going to let go. You're not going to let go.
Look, I'll let go if... I can let go now because somebody has retracted the allegations, Darryl, and I mean it.
Yeah.
But that was the main cause of the genesis of the problem, because Mother was then being told by Joanne and John, one or both of them, oh, Leighton's stolen this money, and where's all that other money gone to too? He's taken tens of thousands of dollars, he stashed it in a Swiss bank account or something. I don't know what else was the conversation, but that is the sort of thing that must have been going on. And Mother was getting more and more bitter to me over the phone. I can remember it quite distinctly up to the time that I got her letter, which dropped me to the floor.
I'm not
That's
joking
how much
when I
it
tell
devastated
you
me.
he was suicidal.
Well, let's move forward.
Okay.
I'm happy to work with you and to work with them.
Do you want me to ring you from time to time to see what sort of progress has been made?
Look,
do you want me to just leave it with you for you?
What do you want? What do you want?
Firstly, thank you for letting me get those bits off my chest. I do value that. I don't know whether you believe it or not. There have been other things also.
There's two sides to every argument. I hear yours, I hear theirs.
No, but hang on. If I paid it straight to the pharmaceutical company, would Joe have a grievance? No.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but let's just... Okay.
There's other occasions that I've done the same.
Where do we go from here?
I've gone to the shop and picked up a new stove for Mum. I've paid for it on a credit card. She gives me a cheque to reimburse me.
Where do we go from here?
Well, firstly, I'd like you to say, yes, I can hear what you're saying and your concerns about the cheques. Okay.
Please, if you are, I'm not here
because
to make admissions or hearing what you say.
Sorry,
I'm not here to say I hear what you say.
Okay.
I'm not. That's just ludicrous to ask you to do that.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. You're stepping outside you.
All I'm saying is, I have heard what you said.
Okay.
But let's move forward.
Okay.
I mean,
all right, Daryl. If there's any way you can talk to my mother and get her to the point that yes, she has said to you already, apparently, that she never wants to see me again. Well, to me, the ball is in her court. She'll probably say it's in my court, but I have asked her when the few times that I have visited her since the first GT hearing, I've asked her, well, do you want me to come and see you again? Oh, what was her answer? You were there at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, only if you want to. I think is her words. So she's trying to put the ball into my court.
Only if you want to, with the answer as well. Well, that was that long story about the hearing aids. What I'm trying to say is, sometimes, when I speak to your mother, I mean, it's where nobody else is present. She may have a differing view as to what she tells me, as to what she tells, what she says when John and Joe was there. I don't know. All I know is the hearing aids was the example where they said she doesn't want them. When I spoke to her, she said she wants them. Maybe if I go and see her after this, and I say to her, look, we've had a conversation, and this is the way it's gone, Edna. Leighton wants to see you again, and maybe you should see him, I mean, I can't force her to do that, of course. But I'd say, my personal view is, I can't understand...
He'd be very happy to see you again, but the ball is in her court.
Yeah,
that's the way I see it.
My personal view, I can't understand why a parent and a child doesn't want to see each other. That's just beyond me. I'm happy to put that to her. Okay. I am concerned if you continue with this, that my next instructions, and this, I've said it before today, it's not a threat, but my next instructions will be to change that will, and I think that that's not in anybody's best interest. But one thing about that is, whilst you can contest the will, and I've gone through all that with Edna, she won't be here to be party to that stress. She'll be gone. So that's at the time that'll happen. And as you probably know, and I'm not going to give you legal advice on this, but when people contest wills, the executor is required to defend the construction of the will, and he will be pointing, or she will be pointing to what action has the party, the son, done to disentitle himself from a share of the estate. And, quite frankly, I don't think suing your mother for defamation and taking two guardianship tribunal proceedings against your mother is going to go in your favour. There will probably be a settlement. You'll probably get something. It's a lot of eggs.
I only wish that they had retracted things so much sooner.
If it never at the guardianship tribunal, and
they said some filthy things about me.
I know. Look,
you've got no idea how much it hurt Daryl.
It hurt them too, and I'm not too sure whether there's misunderstanding. But let's come up to the latest. So I put my cards on the table. I mean, some of this I'm saying to you without clear instructions from Edna at all.
Off the record, I do not wish, I suppose even on the record, I do not wish to proceed with this. I only wish my sister had honoured her undertaking, which I showed to you from last Christmas and from the GT hearing previously that she would provide me with records.
Yeah, but I've explained that. And I was a bit annoyed that your solicitor did not respond to me. Mark and I,
but hang on, that was a separate issue.
He could have, and I would have responded to that letter. Yeah. I would have responded to that letter.
Yeah.
But the next thing, it was Christmas, as you know, next thing that happens, you know, I get this, well, he's giving this confidentiality agreement to a report, which I consider is a confidential agreement. Mm. And has Mark really said to you he doesn't think the terms of that agreement are confidential at all?
Yes.
Well, maybe you should have responded to me, because that's what lawyers do to each other.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe he was charging you too much and you didn't want him to spend any more money.
No, I did discuss it with him, and we drafted a couple of letters, and then he said, and this is off the record, he said, Darryl is going to meet with his clients, and I'll hear from him shortly, so I'll wait to hear from him. Okay, you never had any follow-up letter of what your clients were supposedly going to do or not do. Mm-hmm. But sadly, I found out afterwards that, and this is, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to dig up history, but I found out afterwards that it wasn't just the people that were named in the concerns notice that had been told about all my misdemeanours. There are people much further across Australia that have been told. I'm not going to tell you who at this stage.
Because a lot of that you did yourself. A lot of that you told people about. Uncle Eric came in.
No, I'm talking well beyond Uncle Eric.
Oh, I know, but I mean, I don't know.
Uncle Eric asked me because he had heard about it. Uncle Eric never got to the stage.
I think we're going up history.
Yes, I know, but I'm just saying that their spreading of rumours about me had gone a lot further than I first was aware of when the concerns.
Well, I don't know anything about that. So.
No, I know you don't, but I'm saying they had certainly defamed me.
Mm-hmm. What do you want us to do? What do you want to do?
Darryl, if there's any way you can wave a magic wand, and thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate your comments. I don't wish to go any further. I didn't even wish to go to the mediation session, and I'm not surprised that Graham, what's his name, Berkry said what he did to you. Yeah. This said what he said to you. This is absolutely ridiculous. It is. Why it just couldn't have been done quietly, and I had invited that.
You know, I won't have any control. I won't have any control on your mother making another will if she goes to another solicitor. In fact, your mother gave me, although what I probably will do, in about January, your mother gave me an authority to get all the documents in from Philip Luca. And I didn't act on that because when I get those authorities in the past, it's usually because the other solicitor was fairly incompetent or there's a problem. I thought Philip Luca had acted in your mother's best interest. I was pretty impressed with what he's done, of all the notes he has taken about making wills, and he's really sort of backed everything up so that the current will, you know, if it's ever challenged, will be, although I can't see why you'd challenge it if you're a 50% beneficiary, why would you challenge it? So I have not got those documents in, and John asked me about that just the other day, or Tuesday night, have I got the documents in from Philip Luca, including the original will? Maybe I will get it in, because if it's going to be changed, at least I'll know about it. My view is, and I honestly, I say this hand on heart, Joanne's view is that it should not be changed. And Joanne's view is, hand on heart, swear to God, I'm a Christian, that your mother should not be selling the property or disposing of the property because she thinks that you are entitled to your share of the property. So I think give her credit on that. So I can't say I can give you an undertaking that your mother won't change a will, but I think if things just settle down and this doesn't go ahead, your mother won't change a will. And I will remind her when I see her, listen, Edna, if it's, you know, what you said to Leighton was that if it does go ahead, you'll change your will. He's not going ahead, so really that will should stand as it is. My belief is also that children should share equally. I don't care how badly my children treat me or how badly whatever. You maybe not haven't treated your mother badly. I think it should always be 50-50 split or an equal split between children. That's just my personal view. And if you came into my office and you wanted to make a will and you disinherited your children and left everything to your grandchildren, I will tell you to go to another solicitor. It's not my philosophy. So I don't think that's going to happen. So I can't give you any guarantees, your mother. I will talk to your mother and tell her again. And
Darryl, what I said a while ago was the will and the estate is not the issue. It never has been in my mind.
But I can't understand why this application's on foot then. I really can't understand it.
That is because... Do you really want to hear something?
You thought that she was going... No, I don't. But you thought she was going to give you the financial records and she hasn't. That's
right.
Okay.
And the reason for that goes back a little bit further because there have been some things going on in Joanne's past where she...
No, I don't want to hear that.
No, I know you don't. But she has been...
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
okay,
the reason you didn't get been pushing business a certain way.
Yeah. The reason you didn't get the records was your mother. Quite properly. Well, after that conference, after it all finished, when we were there saying goodbye to go off to a wedding. Okay. She didn't want to give them to you.
Perhaps you should have advised Mark afterwards.
Well, I
told you this, but sorry, half an hour later Edna said that.
Yeah, well, look, I got the letter and I thought, well, look, it really was part of the thing after the conference.
You got the letter?
I got the letter from Leighton. And I thought, well...
Sorry, from Leighton?
Oh, sorry, not Leighton, from Mark.
Yes.
And I thought, well, look, I really don't have to tell him that because it was not part of the conference. If something during the conference had changed, I would have...
So Mark wrote to you as well?
I'm sure I got something like what you've got, yeah.
Got a copy of that, did you?
I think I did. Because I see those few words, I see it somewhere. I'm sure...
Yes.
Well, hang on, was it in... look, I can't remember who wrote to me or it's in this application.
I put it in the application.
Oh, maybe that's where I saw it. Okay, well, look, I'm happy to do that. Go back. John and Joe don't want this to go ahead. I don't think things between you and Joe and John are ever going to be the same. I think you'll acknowledge that. I don't think you could expect it to be, Christmas lunch again, and I just don't think that's going to happen. But your relationship with your mother can certainly, I would think should be better.
I think if he's given the opportunity, he certainly would like to go back to seeing his mum.
Yeah.
And, but where her thoughts are that he has done something so terribly wrong, I don't know if it relates to supposed taking of money or whether there's some other issue that's in her mind that Nate's done something so terribly wrong. I'd love to know what it is, if so. Because, up until the time where she made the changes or she went into the nursing home, as I said, my mother-in-law trusted Leighton implicitly, and, she would sort of say, oh, my son's so good to me and things like that. So I'm wanting to know just why the sudden turnaround, and bearing in mind that around the time that she went into the nursing home and the Chase Road was prepared for sale, we had many other things happening in our life. My parents were a big issue, my parents. Our daughter was without a home of her own. She was in the middle of shifting homes. She ended up coming and living with us, and our two sons. So that was 8 of us in the house at the one time, 2 little ones, and the whole thing, and elections and everything else like that. It really, for us, it was a very stressful time. And
the other sorts of things, pardon me going back again, but the other sorts of things that, of course, really hurt was that they claimed I'm this dreadful ogre or this bully, domineering and all the rest. But where does Joanne happy for mother to come and live? At Cherrybrook, right near her son.
We took her down to Tasmania with us for several days. Yes. This is
that's the year before.
Yes.
But it is a nice facility.
Oh, I'm not doubting that.
Yeah, so, I'm not too sure she would have come and lived with you if it was a horrible facility. It was a Christian facility, and it's lovely.
It is a nice facility, but I asked Joanne, please look around Turramurra. No, I don't want to.
Yeah, well, I can't do many decent ones around.
Mum will be over there near you, sort of thing. She'll be looked after.
Yeah. But it is
Look, I agree, it's nice. And there's other ones we looked at that were not quite as attractive.
Yeah.
And it certainly was between the two siblings, the preferred nursing home.
And while Mother is preparing her execution documents for me, Joanne is writing to me asking, can I reassure Mum that she'll be able to take her to the eye specialist next week or later this month?
And this is the controlling,
this
domineering
is the dreadful,
man.
horrible, bullying son that...
horrible bullying? I don't see your mother saying that.
Whatever words we use, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly.
Joanne feels dominated by you and doesn't feel...
But I don't have much to do with her.
I know, but you... at mediations, I mean, look, you saw what she was like there. I mean, she was pretty upset about the whole...
Sorry?
So was Lee.
I know.
He was nervous, he was shaking.
Yeah. Maybe they both... maybe you both...
So I have to go back to say to the tribunal, my sister-in-law got up and made certain statements about my father-in-law at the beginning of that tribunal.
My late dad. Did you read those?
I read the whole transcript and I was absolutely, let me just say this, I was absolutely disgusted in you, and I mean, I in what you said about Joanne's affairs. I thought...
Which bit are you talking about?
Where you referred to her having affairs. In that transcript.
That was in response to John.
No, it wasn't in response to anything like that. And I read transcripts a lot.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, that was the lowest act I've probably seen in my whole career.
Oh, okay.
And there was no, and even the tribunal stopped you. So let's not talk about what people said. That was a pretty low thing to say in front of her kids.
No,
I don't know if you knew about it.
Of course they did. She's got up in church and proclaimed it all.
Yeah, well, I just think it's disgraceful.
She defamed her father. None of the statements she made about her father were true.
That he was a compulsive gambler, a declared bankrupt, and the banks foreclosed on him.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you may have read it. She said that.
She insulted our daughter to start off with, and our daughter was given no opportunity to respond, and that for two parents, for us, it was very, very hard to cope with. We made no, what's the word?
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
But that was, the low. To me, that was lowest of lows to put.
You had a low, and I had a personal low.
To put Narelle in that situation, and it was something that was just so grossly unfair and untrue to start off with, and that's how Joanne started that tribunal hearing.
Calm down, love, please.
If this does go any further, I mean, obviously we just have to. Hopefully it doesn't, but we just have to focus on the issues, and that's one of the things I said to the tribunal. We just got to.
You mean today?
If it goes any further,
that's one of the things you said to the tribunal, because there's only one bloke there. It's not Tri, it's only Mono.
Today?
Yes.
But he calls himself a tribunal.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you said the tribunal,
I
don't know what you meant.
Because I think all these other issues, again, will just muddy the water. Anyway, I don't think we'll get there. I'm pretty confident that, that I'll talk to your mother. I can't give you a guarantee she's going to see you, but I will certainly suggest to her that she does see you. There's no harm.
Daryl,
can I just say
I don't wish to go ahead with this. I can assure you.
But don't ask your mother. Don't try and become a power of attorney, because
I'm not trying to.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Joanne can do it, and if she'd taken over from me, and I think I'd even offered it to Joanne at one stage. I'd have to check.
See, John has it all on spreadsheets too, so it's all there.
Oh, look,
that's why I can't understand why I won't give it to you, because it's all there.
Yes, that's fine. But I mean, if he gave it to me, there would be there'd be no fear of you're hiding something.
Yeah, well, they're not. She only had $6,000 at the end of the last. Let's just logically think about it. She had $6,000 at the end of the last tribunal. She's probably got, I I don't know what she's got now, but if she's got any less, it's only going to be $6,000 less. The house is still in her name. Nothing's changed there, you know, so nothing's going to change.
Can I assure you anyway, I do not wish to go this way. It was because there was complete lack of action by Joanne, and you can see that there are now, I've listed 3 occasions when it's been offered and nothing's happened. What do I do? Now, that's from my perspective.
I wouldn't have done anything. I would have said...
Tough.
I would have said, well, you know, my sister or brother's looking after it. It's in their best interest as well. Why do I care? If there's only $6,000 there, why do I care about spending records?
Daryl, did you hear from them how that they, I think on 3 occasions, although I was giving Joanne fortnightly updates when I was doing it, and she didn't particularly want it, but on 3 occasions they wrote to me by email and asked me to be more transparent. And I eventually wrote back and said, what gives? What do you keep saying this to me for? And their answer was, oh, look, there's a $50 entry on the cheque account.
Not worthwhile worrying about it.
No, but I mean, they wanted me to be transparent to the nth degree.
Before I came
and I had to go and look back through old cheque butts.
Before I came today, I did actually say, I sent an email to Joe probably about 2 weeks ago saying, following the tribunal, did you give Leighton, the last hearing, did you give Leighton copies of the financial accounts, which
you said you would.
Yeah, which you said you would. And I got back an answer which didn't even answer the question. And I was reading it today while sitting there thinking, that's a funny sort of answer. It's not really yes we did, but I understood that I understand that they haven't given you any of those accounts. So I don't disagree, but again, it's only $6,000 we're talking about. I don't think there's much of embezzlement that can take place with $6,000. And the house hasn't been sold, won't be sold. Nobody's intention to sell the house.
It's not the issue.
I know, but I mean, that's only... But
my sister being transparent with me as she expected me to be with her, as I insisted I would be with her.
But it's the welfare of your mother, the best interests of your mother. That's what we're talking about. Not some grudge you have with your sister.
Please don't look at it as a grudge I have with my sister.
How is this application going to address the issue of your sister providing financial records? It's not. It's not in the best interest of your mother. That's why, in fact, I've spoken to the tribunal, and one of the things that we can actually be...
Sorry, are you talking today, or are you talking some other time?
To here, some other time. To Mark, one of the things that we were looking at is whether you even get across the line to bring the application, and that's something we would have raised at the next hearing. That, it's for the welfare of your mother. Okay, are we happy with... I go back and talk... Number one, let's just agree. I talk to Edna.
And do you want to write this down, Daisy, and we can give you a copy?
So, I will talk to Edna, and I will tell her that the application, you won't continue with the application. Number 2 is that in accordance with what we've discussed, it was pretty informal but fairly, that, accordingly, can I just confirm with her that there are no instructions to change her will? And I will give you this undertaking. If she does tell me that, I won't act for her. I just won't do it. So I'll have to get
I'll just talk to Mother.
If we can say anything or explain anything to her...
She doesn't want to hear it.
She doesn't want to talk to us.
So why worry about it?
How can we...
So why worry? Let's just say you get back talking to her. It's quite,
But I think for my husband, for his emotional sake and for his mother, it would be the best thing for them to at least dialogue and for him to be able to go and visit her.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I don't think that you're not going to get brownie points by talking about what's happened in the past. Edna, there's a lot of misunderstandings. They've been resolved now. Let's move on.
Look, Darryl, I'm happy with that.
Okay.
But you can understand my perspective. There's a lot of upset in there, firstly. And secondly, you're coming in talking from their perspective. And
no, I'm talking.
And I naturally wanted you to hear, look, hang on, there is another side. Now, you don't have to believe it, but there is another side.
I read every bit of correspondence in times that I received from Mark, and what you said. So I'm aware. I've read the transcript. So I'll talk to your mother. I'll go and see her. I think that's the best way. If I talk on the phone, it's not quite the same. I'll talk to her in the absence of Joe and John.
Yes, that is critical, and
I know, that's why
I think
told
you suspect
John.
that.
Oh, look, of course I do. I do not want her making decisions, because they're them.
Joanne is in her ear.
Yeah.
I know that.
And I will tell John and Joe that I think it's a good idea that they see you.
And
I wouldn't worry about challenging. I wouldn't worry, as I say, don't ask her to be a power of attorney, don't ask her to be the executive.
We're not interested.
No,
frankly.
I know.
Please.
We've got
I
enough
have-
issues with my parents. We're just.
I know, because those things won't change. Your mother's 94, 95 in August.
That doesn't matter.
So, I mean, eventually...
Daryl, that does not matter.
They can do the work.
They can
I was
do it
very
all.
happy.
It's
Okay.
not. It's not. We're not into controlling Leighton's mother's estate or anything like that.
It might.
Some of the things that have been said to us, they can look after it, or it's not. I think the main thing is for Leighton and his mother to be at least able to sort of dialogue,
Have a cup of tea.
have a cup of tea and speak to each other.
I agree. Yeah,
Would
I
you not
agree.
agree?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
Okay.
So what? To put it bluntly, the ball is in your court to talk to mother.
Yeah. But I can't guarantee she's going to. But, I'm just... You know what I told your mother the other day? When I said, listen, Edna, irrespective of whether you win or lose at the guardianship tribunal, if there is, even if there's one thing saying, if there's a financial manager appointed, believe me, it won't be the worst thing in the world. It's not going to affect you one way or another. So don't get too upset about, about it. Joe has a different view. It's almost, if there's a financial manager appointed, it's some reflection on me. That's the way Joe sees it. Reflection on her, that she's doing something bad or wrong. And she said that will be ammunition for Leighton to say, guess what? We've had a financial manager appointed, Joe is gone. So that's Joe's view. But your mother...
But this is... Joanne is so apt to misread Leighton and think the worst of him.
Well, I couldn't understand why you brought this application.
Yeah, just
I just couldn't. Now you've explained it because you wanted the financial records.
Yeah.
When she said, when we did say, and I acknowledge, when we left, John and I had spoken to you, and John and I did not have a problem with it. So, and that's probably the last thing that was conveyed to Mark, and then we went down
and that's what we were under the impression.
Daryl, I'll go further, seeing that we are now talking as friends rather than, what should I say?
I don't think we'd be friends, mate.
No, well, we're talking in a friendly way,
Yes.
an informal way. Is that
yeah.
description?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean
No,
best of
no,
buddies or anything like that. I still realise you are on their side, but I perhaps can say to you that I have heard, and I've got two bits of evidence that Joanne is of the opinion that I am trying to get all of Mother's estate.
Something her children...
Now, Daisy, no need to go into the details,
Yeah.
but there is that evidence, and okay, one of them came from their children.
And I can swear to you, I've never heard her say that.
No, that Joanne has never said that.
No, she's never said that.
Well,
Never.
she may not have said it to you, but at one stage she was of that opinion.
Mm.
Okay, and I've got two separate bits of evidence.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
she never said it. So.
Now forget I've said it.
Mm.
Okay, I know you're on their side, but you must not state that to anybody.
Mm.
All right.
Okay, well I think that's probably about it.
So that's the sort of thing that Joanne has been
But you think that the person
building up in her mind against me.
But you think the person who said that you may have been exaggerating, is it a bit like the...
No, I've got it in writing somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Joanne's written this somewhere.
Well, I won't go into the details, but just let me
I
assure
just
you.
can't... But the amount of hours,
Yes.
tens and tens of hours that I've bet with John and Joe,
Yeah.
that has never, ever been said by either of them.
No, it might not now,
Yeah.
but initially when Joanne went ballistic, for want of a better word,
No.
and started all the stuff against me.
Yeah.
That was apparently her thoughts. And that's the sort of difficulty, because she seems to imagine things that are just not real.
Mm.
And,
Okay. Look, I think this is going to be good.
now, look, I'm very, very happy to call this thing off at this stage, but
Yeah.
can you give me some assurance you're going to go and see Mother
Yeah.
and encourage her to talk to me?
Absolutely. I will ask her about the financial records again, but you know what? I don't see that as a real
It's
issue.
not an issue.
No.
It's not the issue.
I know, but it was
Okay.
the reason. That was the reason you brought these proceedings. Because you weren't.
It was because I was being kept in the dark. Joanne had indicated she would. Now,
Yeah, I think it was probably John and I that indicated.
All right.
Anyway.
See, we didn't know that.
Yeah.
okay, so there was a bit of missing information that wasn't passed on to Mark after.
I think he'd gone actually.
Yes, but it
Yeah.
wasn't passed on to him.
No,
That was the critical
because I
bit.
didn't. I thought, well, look, there was no undertaking. There was nothing. And if you had to say otherwise, that's it. We just have to go with that. Yeah.
And you'll encourage her to contact me.
Mm-hmm. Or I'll contact you, and you contact her.
Or we can
Whichever way.
have an understanding that nothing in the past will be
Yes, I
talked of or something
I
like
don't
that.
want to bring up stuff.
I think
in the past.
I think Edna would be happy with that, because I don't know when you saw her last, but she's still pretty. She hasn't changed much. She's still pretty good. Let's have a great conversation with her.
Last time I saw her, I think, was at the
Tribunal
mediation.
Mediation
I think
conference.
this was about
Yeah.
6, 7 months, 8 months ago.
But I think Daryl means when we actually visited John.
I visited her.
And she,
Well,
that was,
Well,
and she told us not to go,
April,
come back.
April before she told us
She
she
didn't
doesn't want to see
assess.
us again.
Yeah, but then that stage you're in the defamation proceedings and stuff. So
Oh, look,
no problem.
I,
So that would have been just started. So she probably was a bit upset about that. On that.
yes, but
Anyway.
my visit before that was, look, Mum, if you're not going to talk to us about it, what are we to do? Do you want me to go to a solicitor? Is that the only way we're going to get any information? And it was basically, well, do that if you want to, sort of thing.
Okay.
But it was at that point also that Mark Davidson basically said, well, you've given them every attempt. John has been blocked from mediating with you at all via Uncle Eric, and that I was hopeful would resolve the issue, but it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure had I sat down with John and gone through some of the misunderstandings, then things would have been quite a bit different.
Mm.
And he would see, yes, this and this has happened. Now, I know he's got his side, but obviously I want you to see my side, you want me to see your side.
Mm.
You would agree? We
I think it's history. I
but
I've heard what you said. You've heard what I've said, but
Yes.
you and I may never agree. I agree with some of the things you say. I'm not disagreeing. But
look, you don't have
yeah.
to agree with them, but
Yeah.
at least you've heard my side,
Yeah,
and that there is a concern because of X, Y, and Z.
yeah. Well, I think there was error on both sides, but I really do. I think that I think a bit more responsive handing over credit cards and things like that. As I said,
Well, I've given you the explanation
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. That may not be good enough, for other people. If you're in litigation, I hate litigation. It doesn't cost me. It's one of those things that nobody benefits out of it, the solicitors. So, just gonna anyway. We're not adversaries. I'm just hoping to resolve this. Which reminds me, I better get back to my office at North Sydney.
All right.
And-
What shall I do? Wait to hear from
Yeah,
you
you can
further?
wait.
or what?
I won't.
Do you have my phone number, Darryl?
No, but I will get it. I probably do have your number because my number.
That's my bit of paper.
There you go. I'll get some paper here.
You should have your own. There's some your copy in there. Do you want me to write it on a bit of paper here for you?
No, I'll just tell you the number.
Sure. Right. It's 9945 0425
Sorry, 9945.
0425.
Okay.
I'll be very happy to hear from you any
Yeah,
time.
just give me. I may not see your mother until the weekend because tomorrow's Friday.
To keep
What's today?
keep the faith with you. What do I do at this stage? Just call this thing off, do I?
Look, give me. I'll talk to you another weekend.
I assure you, I don't wish to go ahead with it, but
I can't see.
you can understand why it got to that point, simply because there was the undertakings and nothing else.
I wouldn't know. But anyway.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I understand.
Once you start these things, it's like a big snowball, isn't it? Just go on and on and on.
Thanks. Well, I am grateful to you that you've been, is the word brave enough or courageous enough to say, should we talk for 5 minutes? I know it's become an hour 25, but hopefully it's been well spent.
Why are you in charge?